What does it take for a film to truly capture the fear, the thunder, and the split-second life or death choices of a World War II dogfight? Imagine staring through a canopy that rattles with every hit as the sky turns into a battlefield of smoke and fire. Many movies tried to recreate this terror, yet only a rare few earned the quiet respect of real pilots who lived it. These films did not chase glamour. They chased truth. Today we dive into the skies of authenticity, danger, and forgotten bravery. Number 15. Battle of Britain, 1969. Battle of Britain arrived with the reputation of a massive, high-ambition war epic built on real hardware and real risk. Audiences expected spectacle, and the film delivered. But what made pilots respect it was not the explosions. It was the realism. The film used actual Luftwaffe and RAF aircraft restored and flown by stunt pilots who mimicked real battle tactics. Every shot felt alive because the sky was the set and the aircraft were not models, but history in motion. The story follows the desperate defense of the United Kingdom as German forces close in, and the RAF fights with dwindling pilots, aging planes, and mounting pressure. The film avoids glamour. Instead, it leans into fear exhaustion and the chilling moment when a pilot realizes he may not make it home. Cinematic narration sweeps through smoke-filled skies as Spitfires spiral into dogfights that feel chaotic and intimate. Controversy rose when governments on both sides reacted. Some feared the film painted commanders as unprepared. Others whispered that too much German cooperation made the film uncomfortable politically. Studio executives panicked when the budget spiraled due to the huge cost of renting and restoring real planes. Filming shut down twice after accidents, and unpredictable weather grounded entire sequences. Behind the scenes, pilots argued about maneuver accuracy. The director insisted on authenticity, which led to dangerous aerial choreography that blurred the line between stunt and real combat. Critics were divided, yet war veterans quietly praised the film. They said the terror was real, and the film captured the strange beauty of survival in the sky. Its legacy faded for years, but resurfaced as aviation lovers rediscovered it. Modern combat pilots call it one of the purest aerial recreations ever put on screen. The film remains a reminder that truth in the sky comes with a cost, and bravery often hides in the shadows of the unknown. Number 14. 12 O'Clock High, 1949. 12 O'Clock High earned a reputation as a bold psychological exploration rather than a simple war movie. Pilots respected it because it did something few films dared. It showed the emotional breakdowns, the silent traumas, and the crushing burden of command. Rather than focusing on dazzling dogfights, it studied the men who had to order those flights into the jaws of enemy fire. The story follows a bomber group struggling with heavy losses. A hard-edged commander arrives determined to rebuild discipline, but behind the tough exterior lies a man unraveling from the strain of relentless decisions that cost lives. The film paints the conflict not as glory, but as responsibility soaked in blood, sweat, and fear. When the bombers rise into formation, the sky becomes a chamber of doom, where survival hangs on inches. Controversy surrounded the film right from development. Some military officials feared it revealed too much about leadership failures. Others were uneasy with the raw portrayal of collapse under pressure. Rumors spread that the studio softened certain real events to avoid government backlash. Pilots who watched early screenings claimed the emotional tone hit too close to reality, and some walked out unable to relive old wounds. During filming, actors trained with real bomber crews, and several scenes used genuine combat footage stitched into recreated sequences. Critics were initially hesitant because the film refused to glorify the war, but audiences slowly embraced it for its honesty and intensity. Real pilots embraced it too, saying the film captured the mental war they fought every day. Its legacy grew through decades, becoming a training reference for leadership programs around the world. The story vanished from mainstream conversation for a time, but resurfaced when veterans began to speak openly about the psychological wounds of war. Today, the film stands as a shadowed monument to unseen battles fought within the mind. Number 13. The Blue Max, 1966. The Blue Max arrived with a daring reputation. A World War I setting, yet filled with aerial authenticity so strong that pilots from later wars praised its dogfighting accuracy. Though not a World War II film, pilots insist it influenced nearly every aviation film that followed and shaped how directors portrayed mid-century air combat. Its authenticity echoed into World War II depictions and made it impossible to ignore in this list. The story follows a ruthless pilot obsessed with earning Germany's highest flying honor. The film strips away heroism and replaces it with ambition pride and the cold brutality of aerial warfare. The dogfights are filmed using replica biplanes flown in complex patterns that demanded absolute precision. The sky becomes a stage where survival dances with obsession, and every dive feels like a challenge to fate. Controversy erupted over the film's portrayal of German pilots as flawed and morally conflicted. Some accused the director of being too sympathetic, while others claimed the film exposed the darker nature of military ambition. Studio executives panicked during production, as aircraft crashes delayed filming, and the cost of maintaining the fleet soared beyond expectations. A rumored argument between the director and lead actor became a whispered legend fueling the film's mystique. Behind the scenes, pilots were hired to reenact real tactics. Many insisted the aerial choreography was among the most accurate ever captured. Critics were unsure how to categorize the film, but aviation experts embraced it. They praised the tension, the physics, the danger, and the haunting realism in every frame. Its aftermath grew slowly. The film faded from mainstream popularity, but resurfaced as aviation historians rediscovered its groundbreaking aerial cinematography. Today, pilots speak of it with subtle respect. They say the film understood that the sky is both beautiful and merciless, and that every pilot carries a storm inside him. Number 12. The Dam Busters. 1955. The Dam Busters became legendary long before modern aviation films existed. Its reputation grew from a mix of technical daring and quiet authenticity. Real pilots praised it because it focused not on glamour, but on preparation, teamwork, and the cold precision required for survival. The film chronicled the real mission to destroy German dams using an experimental bouncing bomb, and it showed the sky not as a stage, but as a mathematical battlefield. The premise unfolds with engineers struggling to build an impossible weapon, while pilots train endlessly for low-altitude night runs that required perfect timing. The film captures the eerie stillness of night flight, the roar of engines skimming water, and the terrifying moment when a single mistake means instant death. Cinematic narration sweeps through moonlit valleys where tension sharpens every breath the crews take. Controversy followed the film from its first announcement. Some officials feared it revealed too much about wartime technology. Others whispered that it glorified a mission that caused massive civilian casualties. Studio leaders panicked when government consultants argued over what should remain classified. Early screenings raised eyebrows because the film depicted commanders wrestling with guilt and doubt, a portrayal some believed undermined clean-cut wartime heroism. Behind the scenes, accidents and malfunctions plagued filming. Miniature models kept failing. Real bombers flew practice passes dangerously close to water surfaces. Actors trained with surviving pilots who insisted on correcting even the smallest details. Critics at first called the film too technical, yet pilots praised its focus and restraint. They said this was how real missions felt: the silence before danger, the calculation, the pressure, the fear. Its legacy grew steadily. Historians rediscovered it. Pilots recommended it to younger flyers. The story resurfaced with new documentaries and restorations. Today it stands as a reminder that war is won not only through courage, but through precision and sacrifice. It remains a shadowed salute to the men who flew toward impossible odds, guided only by skill and hope. Number 11. Memphis Belle, 1990. Memphis Belle arrived with the reputation of a heartfelt ensemble war drama built on real memories. Pilots respected it because it captured the claustrophobic terror inside a B-17 bomber under fire. The film avoided flashy spectacle and instead showed the grinding fear that grew with every mission. Real veterans praised how it portrayed the crew as ordinary young men pushed into extraordinary firestorms. The story follows the final mission of a bomber crew aiming to complete 25 flights and earn their return home. Cinematic narration pulls viewers into the roar of engines, the rattle of metal, the choking smoke, the sudden screams, the desperate teamwork that holds the bomber together as enemy fighters tear through the sky. The dogfights are brutal and chaotic, just as veterans described them. No clean lines, no elegant maneuvers. Only survival. Controversy surged around historical accuracy. Some critics argued that the film compressed several missions into one, a move they claimed diluted authenticity. Others accused the studio of sanitizing the horrors of air combat to avoid public backlash. Rumors spread about government pressure to soften certain scenes that suggested heavy casualties and pilot trauma. Behind the scenes, the production faced enormous challenges. Real B-17 aircraft were restored and flown in formation, something many experts believed impossible in modern filmmaking. Pilots trained in recreated maneuvers and flew tight patterns that pushed safety limits. Mechanical failures delayed filming, and one incident forced an emergency landing that nearly shut down the entire project. Reception was mixed among general audiences, but pilots embraced the film. They said it captured the choking fear, the deafening noise, and the razor-thin decisions that defined bomber warfare. For them, it was not about perfect accuracy. It was about emotional truth. Its legacy strengthened over time. Younger generations discovered it through aviation festivals and veteran interviews. The story resurfaced as historians highlighted its technical achievements. Today, the film stands as a tribute to the courage and terror of bomber crews who lived each mission like a coin flip between life and death. Number 10. Red Tails, 2012. Red Tails entered the world with a reputation as a bold tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen. Though audiences debated its tone, real pilots applauded the film for one thing. Its dogfights felt fast, brutal, and grounded in real aerial behavior. The physics, the angles, the dives, the stalls, and the teamwork matched what many fighter pilots described from their own experiences in later wars. The story focuses on a squadron of African-American pilots fighting discrimination on the ground and fierce enemies in the sky. Cinematic narration sweeps through burning clouds as the Red Tails defend bombers from relentless enemy fighters. The film leans into the emotional weight carried by pilots who are fighting two battles at once, the one in the sky and the one for respect. Controversy surrounded the film even before release. Some critics argued that the characters were too simplified. Others whispered that the film did not go far enough exposing the harsh racial injustices these pilots faced. Behind the scenes, rumors spread that certain studios initially resisted funding the project, fearing it would not appeal to mainstream audiences. This created tension and delays that nearly doomed the film. Production chaos tested the cast and crew. The aerial sequences required complex digital effects, blended with real aircraft maneuvers. Coordinating these elements caused budget spikes and schedule problems. Some scenes were rewritten multiple times due to disagreements over tone and realism. Yet the dogfight choreography earned praise from combat pilots who said the movement patterns felt closer to real tactics than most modern films attempt. Its legacy settled into a unique space. Historians embraced it for bringing long overlooked heroes to the screen. Pilots called it an emotional tribute to fighter discipline and teamwork. The film disappeared briefly from pop culture conversation but resurfaced when aviation educators began using its aerial sequences as examples of combat coordination. Red Tails remains a story of courage against the sky and against a world that tried to hold these pilots down. Number 9. The Hunters, 1958. The Hunters arrived with a mixed reputation. Critics expected a standard action film, yet real pilots immediately noticed something deeper. The aerial sequences carried weight, tension, and authentic tactics. Even though the story is set after World War II, many pilots argued that its portrayal of dogfight psychology mirrored what they experienced in earlier battles. The film captured the strange mix of instinct, discipline, and fear that defines any era of aerial combat. The story follows two fighter pilots bound by rivalry pride and the constant threat of death overhead. Cinematic narration sweeps viewers through frozen skies as aircraft slice through clouds with deadly precision. The film focuses less on glory and more on the strange loneliness found in the cockpit. Every maneuver feels like a dance with fate, a balance between skill and survival. Real pilots praised the way the film portrayed hesitation, small mistakes, and desperate split-second choices that decide life or death in dogfights. Controversy swirled around the film's character portrayals. Some argued it romanticized reckless flying. Others whispered that the studio softened certain brutal realities to secure wider audience approval. Behind the scenes, the production faced unpredictable weather engine issues and disagreements between aviation advisors and directors. Several stunt pilots refused to perform maneuvers they considered too dangerous, leading to last-minute rewrites and reshoots. Reception was divided. Critics were unsure how to categorize a film that oscillated between psychological drama and aerial warfare. Yet pilots championed it. They said the film understood the emotional toll, the isolation, and the frightening clarity that comes in the moments before a dogfight turns deadly. They claimed it portrayed the mindset of real pilots better than most films ever attempted. Its legacy grew slowly. The film disappeared from mainstream discussions but resurfaced among aviation enthusiasts who recognized its attention to flying technique. Today it stands as a quiet monument to the inner storms pilots face. It reminds viewers that some battles are not fought against an enemy, but against the fear in one's own heart. Number 8. Midway, 1976. Midway entered theaters with the reputation of an ambitious ensemble war epic. Pilots respected it not for flashy action, but for its commitment to actual combat strategies used during the Battle of Midway. The film recreated the chaos of carrier squadrons and dive bombers with a focus on communication stress and timing. It presented the sky as a shifting maze where a wrong turn meant death. The story unfolds through a mosaic of characters on both sides of the Pacific, each struggling against fate. Cinematic narration captures the deadly ballet of aircraft diving through smoke-filled air. The dogfight sequences rely less on spectacle and more on the panic, confusion, and razor-edge decisions pilots faced. Real aviators admired how the film emphasized coordination and split-second timing crucial for dive bombing and interception. Controversy surrounded the film due to its use of archival footage blended with new scenes. Some accused the studio of taking shortcuts. Others whispered that certain governments objected to depictions of tactical mistakes. Production troubles added fuel to the fire. Archival footage did not always match new scenes, forcing editors to rebuild sequences repeatedly. Budget problems and tension between aviation consultants and producers caused frequent delays. Despite this turbulence, pilots praised the film's attempt to portray real combat behavior. They said the film captured the courage and desperation of pilots who flew missions with limited visibility, poor intel, and overwhelming odds. Critics were mixed, yet the aviation community embraced its strategic authenticity. Its legacy shifted over the years. For a time, the film faded from public view, overshadowed by newer war dramas. But historians and pilots revived its importance. They argued that Midway remains one of the few films to realistically portray large-scale aerial coordination. Today, it stands as a testament to the chaos of war at sea and the silent bravery of the pilots who helped change history with every dangerous dive. Number 7. Angels 1-5, 1952. Angels 1-5 earned a reputation as one of the earliest and most grounded portrayals of the Battle of Britain. Pilots admired it for its tactful approach. Instead of glamour, the film embraced realism. It showed the stress, exhaustion, and mechanical limitations that shaped every dogfight. There were no superhuman heroes, only weary pilots fighting for survival against a relentless enemy. The story follows a young replacement pilot joining an overstretched squadron. Cinematic narration paints a haunting picture of airfields battered by constant raids and skies filled with smoke. The dogfights are portrayed not as acrobatic showcases, but as frantic, brutal exchanges fought at terrifying speeds. Real pilots praised how the film captured radio tension, cockpit claustrophobia, and the unpredictable chaos of combat. Controversy surrounded its stark realism. Some officials believed it revealed too much about early war vulnerabilities. Others complained that it lacked patriotic heroism. Rumors spread that government advisors attempted to influence the script to soften depictions of command mistakes. Behind the scenes, production faced technical limits of early post-war filmmaking. Real aircraft were scarce and fragile. Weather delays crippled filming. Actors trained with actual pilots who insisted on correcting every detail from cockpit gestures to communication patterns. Critical reception was modest, yet pilots embraced it. They said the film portrayed the fear-bone deep fatigue and relentless pressure they experienced. The dogfights were not beautiful. They were desperate. The film honored that truth. Its legacy drifted into obscurity for decades, but historians and enthusiasts revived interest. Many now consider it a quiet masterpiece. Its emotional honesty lingers. It reminds viewers that heroism is not loud. It is a whisper in the storm. A pilot climbing into a damaged aircraft knowing the odds are against him, yet flying anyway. Number 6. The War Lover, 1962. The War Lover entered movie history with a stormy reputation shaped by its daring portrayal of bomber crews and the chaos surrounding their missions. Pilots respected the film because it pushed away from heroic fantasy and instead showed the sky as a place ruled by tension, rivalry, and bitter choices. Unlike polished propaganda-style dramas, The War Lover leaned into the emotional fractures created by constant danger and the rising fear that every takeoff might be the last. The story follows a charismatic yet reckless bomber pilot whose obsession with combat threatens everyone around him. Cinematic narration sweeps through thunderous skies as B-17 bombers roar into formation, carrying crews who cling to discipline and instinct. While other films depicted clean angles and perfect maneuvers, this one leaned into turbulence, shuddering metal, and engines screaming under strain. Pilots valued the way it showed a crew struggling not only against enemy fighters, but against the unraveling of trust inside their own aircraft. Controversy ignited immediately. Some believed the lead character made pilots appear irresponsible. Others whispered that the film exposed command failures by portraying officers unable to control dangerous behavior in wartime. The studio faced backlash from groups who feared audiences would misunderstand the harsh realities of bomber culture. Behind the scenes, tension rose as stunt pilots argued about hazardous flying requests. Several maneuvers were canceled after safety concerns sparked heated debates between advisors and the director. Production delays were constant. Mechanical issues ground flights. Weather ruined entire sequences. At one point, a bomber suffered an engine fire that nearly halted filming completely. Rumors spread that the cast struggled with the emotional weight of reenacting missions so many veterans never returned from. Critics delivered mixed reviews, yet real pilots reacted differently. They admired the grit, the imperfections, and the raw truth of a sky that offered no mercy. Its legacy faded, then resurfaced decades later among aviation enthusiasts. Modern pilots describe it as a film that dared to show the darkness behind heroism. It remains a reminder that war does not only challenge courage, it tests humanity itself. Number 5. 30 Seconds Over. Tokyo, 1944. 30 Seconds Over Tokyo arrived during wartime carrying a reputation for sincerity and authenticity. Pilots respected it because it honored the Doolittle raid with reverence and accuracy. Rather than glorifying destruction, the film focused on preparation training and the emotional strain of a mission expected to end in death or capture. It offered a rare, honest look at fear without stripping away the dignity of those who flew. The story follows the bomber crews tasked with launching a daring surprise attack on Japan using aircraft never intended for carrier operations. Cinematic narration carries viewers from tense training sequences to the terrifying carrier launch as engines roar against stormy seas. The film displays the uncertainty of the mission, the threat of interception, and the long, desperate flight toward friendly territory. Pilots valued its commitment to the reality of limited fuel, unpredictable weather, and the constant dread of failure. Controversy grew quietly beneath the surface. Some officials feared the film revealed too many operational details. Others whispered that it softened certain harsh outcomes to keep morale high during wartime. Rumors circulated that early drafts included scenes showing deeper psychological trauma, but were removed after military pressure. Behind the scenes, filming faced constant challenges. Real B-25s were hard to obtain. Safety restrictions limited airborne shooting. Miniature work consumed vast time as special effects teams struggled to recreate the raid with accuracy. Critics praised the film's respectful tone. Veterans embraced it. They said the film captured the emotional burden of pilots preparing for missions they believed they might not return from. The dogfight moments, though, brief, reflected the desperate intensity of real battle. The film did not glamorize war. It honored sacrifice. Its legacy endured quietly. Later, filmmakers studied it for its blend of realism and empathy. The story resurfaced with documentaries and tributes reminding audiences that courage often rises not from confidence, but from duty. Today, the film stands as a solemn tribute to men who flew into the unknown. Number 4. The Tuskegee Airmen, 1995. The Tuskegee Airmen entered the cultural landscape with a powerful reputation fueled by its focus on real history and real courage. Pilots respected the film because it portrayed aerial combat through the eyes of men who fought both the enemy and prejudice. It balanced emotional depth with technical accuracy, creating dogfight sequences that reflected real tactics, discipline, and teamwork. The story follows the training trials and combat missions of America's first African-American fighter pilots. Cinematic narration sweeps across training fields filled with hope and tension, then into burning skies where the pilots carve their legacy with determination and skill. The dogfights display tight formations, stall recovery steep dives, and defensive patterns that pilots said felt alarmingly real. The film captured the exhaustion, pride, terror, and resilience that shaped every mission. Controversy emerged quickly. Some argued that the film softened the real brutality of discrimination. Others whispered that the studio feared raw honesty might limit box office appeal. Aviation advisors pushed back against early script choices demanding more technical accuracy. Behind the scenes, turbulence erupted as mechanical failures grounded replica fighters. Flight choreography required dangerous precision, and several stunt pilots refused high-risk maneuvers. Weather delays destroyed schedules, forcing expensive reshoots. Critical reception was strong, yet pilots responded with deeper emotion. They praised the technical detail and the commitment to portraying the Red Tails as disciplined, skilled, and courageous. The film shed light on a chapter of history long ignored or minimized. Veterans who served alongside the real airmen said the film restored honor that had been denied for too long. Its legacy grew with each passing year. Historians embraced it. Aviation schools referenced it. The story returned to cultural relevance as new generations learned of the Red Tail's sacrifices. Today, the film stands not only as an aviation achievement, but as a reminder that courage is sometimes forged in the fires of injustice. The sky remembers those who fought for a place in history. Number 3. Dunkirk, 2017. Dunkirk entered the world with the reputation of a modern war masterpiece built on immersive sound practical effects and relentless tension. Pilots respected the film because its dogfight scenes broke from digital excess. They felt real. They felt grounded. They felt suffocating. Director Christopher Nolan insisted on using real aircraft and real physics, turning the sky into a cold, merciless arena where every maneuver carried weight and danger. The story follows the evacuation of Allied forces trapped on French shores. Cinematic narration cuts between land, sea, and air, but the aerial sequences rise above everything. A lone Spitfire glides through the sky, conserving fuel, drifting downward with terrifying silence as enemy fighters stalk the beaches. The dogfights unfold like predatory duels, slow, precise, relentless. Pilots praised the way the film captured energy management, tight turn radiuses, sunlight blindness, and the dreadful freefall moment when the engine sputters toward empty tanks. Controversy erupted when some viewers doubted the minimal dialogue and fragmented timeline. Others whispered that the film romanticized certain aircraft over historical details. Aviation purists debated the glide sequences with mixed passion, arguing about fuel endurance. Behind the scenes, chaos shaped the production. Turbulent winds halted filming. A real aircraft nearly suffered structural failure during a banking sequence. Nolan insisted on realism, leading stunt pilots to fly maneuvers few modern filmmakers would attempt. Some crew members claimed the aerial scenes consumed more time and stress than the entire rest of the film. Critics praised the film loudly, yet pilots offered a quieter, more reverent reaction. They said Dunkirk captured a truth many films ignore. Dogfights are not always flashy dances. Sometimes they are lonely duels fought in thin, cold air, where a single misjudgment spells death. They admired the film for its silence, its grit, and its refusal to turn aerial combat into spectacle. Its legacy grew instantly. Historians applauded it. Pilots recommended it. The story resurfaced in aviation circles as an example of modern authenticity. Today, Dunkirk stands as a chilling reminder that the sky is not heroic by nature. It is indifferent, cold, unforgiving, a place where courage clings to hope on wings made of metal and fear. Number 2. Reach for the Sky, 1956. Reach for the Sky arrived with the reputation of an inspiring wartime biography, yet pilots praised it for something deeper: authenticity. The film chronicled the life of British flying ace Douglas Bader, whose real story defied logic. Pilots respected the film because it portrayed aerial combat not as a dance of perfection, but as a furious test of will. It showed how determination, grit, and instinct shape survival more than flawless technique. The story follows Bader's rise-fall and astonishing return to the cockpit after losing both legs. Cinematic narration carries viewers from training fields to roaring dogfights where Bader defies enemy fighters with aggression and razor-sharp strategy. The film illustrates real RAF tactics: steep climbs, sudden dives, coordinated squadron attacks, and the high-risk maneuvers that Bader became known for. Pilots admired how the film portrayed the thunder of combat, the rattle of wings under pressure, and the chilling moment before a pilot commits to a life-or-death turn. Controversy emerged quickly. Some argued that the film glorified a reckless flying style. Others whispered that it left out darker elements of Bader's personality. Rumors floated that advisors clashed with studio executives about historical accuracy. Behind-the-scenes production faced mechanical failures and unpredictable weather. Aircraft replicas struggled to endure repeated high-speed passes. Several scenes required precision flying that pushed stunt pilots to their limits and forced emergency adjustments. Critics adored the film for its heroic tone, yet real pilots embraced it differently. They saw the truth beneath the polish. They recognized the stubborn courage, the fierce independence, and the burning desire to return to the sky even after unimaginable loss. To them, the film honored not only Bader, but every pilot who fought their battles both in the air and in their own spirit. Its legacy endured across generations. Military schools screened it. Aviation historians analyzed it. Young pilots drew inspiration from it. Today, the film stands as a tribute to the unbreakable soul of a fighter who refused to surrender to fate and soared beyond every limitation placed before him. Number 1. The Battle of Midway, 1942. The Battle of Midway entered history with the reputation of being one of the most authentic wartime films ever created. Pilots respected it because it was built not from staged reenactments, but from real footage captured during the battle itself. The film carries a raw intensity that modern productions cannot replicate. It is not polished, it is not stylized, it is war captured as it happened. The story unfolds through real aerial combat recorded by cameramen who risked their lives aboard aircraft diving into enemy fire. Cinematic narration fuses the chaos of battle with a sense of uneasy calm. Pilots watch oil streak across canopies, flames rise from carriers, and aircraft spiral into the sea. There are no perfect angles, no rehearsed turns, only the brutal authenticity of combat where survival depended on instinct and luck. Controversy surrounded the film immediately. Some military leaders feared it revealed too many tactical details. Others believed the footage was too graphic for public morale. Rumors spread that multiple reels remained classified for years. Behind the scenes, the film faced challenges unmatched by any other wartime project. Cameramen died capturing the footage. Others returned with damaged equipment and near-illegible film strips that editors painstakingly restored. Critics acknowledged its importance, but pilots felt its impact more deeply. They recognized the terror in the unsteady camera movements, the vibrations, the desperate scrambles, the sudden explosions of light. It was not choreography, it was survival. Real pilots said this film captured the sky as they experienced it, unpredictable, merciless, and deafening. Its legacy remains immense. Historians study it, educators reference it. Veterans watched it to remember comrades who never returned. Today, it stands as an unfiltered window into the past, a reminder that true heroism often goes unseen. A testament to the men who flew into battles knowing the sky could swallow them at any moment. Every one of these films carries a shadow of truth. They reveal the fear, the courage, and the desperate choices pilots faced in skies filled with fire. Some films soared, others faded, but each left a trail that still lingers across aviation history. Which of these dogfight stories hit you the hardest? Share your thoughts, join the discussion, and take a moment to like, subscribe, and keep this journey through forgotten history alive.